one of the main reasons to use a debugger is to be able to see what's inside the variables when we execute a program. It's quite easy to see the variable. We just double click on this variable name and it shows here, and this is the value. In this case the value is blank. Let's pick another variable and it shows the value here. It's also possible to change values in debug, so we could click this and then change this to another value, for example 9. So now the variable is holding the value 9. It's quite useful to make experiments with variables in debug to try to understand what can be changed and see the behavior. I'm going to keep the value as original. So we can see by this dash here that this is a structure which has several variables, members of this structure. So if I put just the structure name, so it tells me that it's a flat structure. If I double click the structure, it switches to the structure tab where I can see all the variables of this structure with all the values, and I can go back to my desktop. Besides inspecting variables, we also want to go through the code one step at a time and see what is going to change over time. So now I'm stopped in this place and I have these 4 buttons here which allow me to continue execution. So starting from the first one, this is the single step button. It's also called step into in other contexts of debugging, and it's the smallest step that I can do. If I'm in a command like this if clause, it will just go over this, execute if. So if this if is true, it will go inside. If it's not true, it go to the next statement after. Then there is this second, which is this execute, which is also called as step over. And for a command like the if one, it will do the same thing. It will execute the next one. But if I'm in a command like a function call, for example in this case here, if I execute the step over, which is this one, it will execute the function and move my cursor to the next line. If I execute this one, the step into, it will go inside the function code and then continue debugging inside this function code. The other button, the third one, is the return, which is also called sometimes step out, and it will, instead of continue executing in this block of code, it will return to the upper level that called this part of the code. And actually we can see this by the call stack. So we are in this level 8, which is this at user command event, and if I return, it will go to step 7, which was the previous block of code that called this event. So that's what is the return button. And the last button, the continue, will continue execution until it hits the next breakpoint. We didn't talk yet about breakpoints, but we didn't set also any breakpoint. So if I execute this one now, it will just continue until the end of execution of the program and quit the debugging session. So I'm going to continue execution. So this is another statement that just assigns variables. I can actually click and see, actually it opened here a new window, but I prefer this one because it leaves more space to see the code. So the value is currently blank, zeros, and then I execute again and it's, well, still zeros because this one is also zeros. So now I'm in the function call. In this case it's a form routine, and I'm going to step into this to get the debugger to get inside this block of code. We can see we are inside this form, And we can also see by the call stack that we are one level deeper. I can close this one to see better the code. We are one level deeper in code, so this was we were previously in level 8, now we are in level 9. We can continue debugging step by step, or we can put breakpoints. So let's see how to put breakpoints. Suppose that I want to stop here in this statement here. I can click here in this bar and it creates a breakpoint. If I now click this button here, it will stop in this breakpoint. It's the next one, so it will stop there. If I want to delete the breakpoint, I can click again and it removes. Other ways to put breakpoint is to double click in the line that we want, and then we can create, in this case, debugger breakpoint. And we can also go to the menu. I'm going to delete it. Go to the menu, and we can click this button to create a breakpoint, which opens this window, which allows me to put breakpoints on different ways, not selecting a specific line of code, but I can select a command. For example, if I want to break in every case statement, like this one here, I can just type case here and it creates breakpoints on every case statement. For example, if I want to find the tables, the database tables that are being used, I could do the same thing, just create a breakpoint and select, which is the database command to get data from a table in the database. So if I put a breakpoint on the select, every time the program does a select from the database, it stops there. So it's useful to find the names of database tables, for example. So I can also delete all breakpoints or deactivate. Deactivate just removes from this execution, but if I execute the program again in the same session, it will stop again. Delete deletes everything. And also talking about session breakpoints, if I create a breakpoint like this, it will be only a breakpoint for this execution. But if I save the breakpoint and it changes a bit the icon, you can see it's a different icon, it has become a session breakpoint, so I can execute the program until the end and stops again in this breakpoint because it's saved for all the session